So, thanks for coming along. Pretty amazing turnout for 8:30 on a UK Reef Thursday morning. So, yeah, congratulations. Well done for getting out of bed. Thank you. Appreciate it. So, got a really good session today talking about Peterborough and where Peterborough's going and moving towards becoming a Mayoral Development Corporation. Little introduction on who I am. I'm Martin Woodhouse. I'm a director of PRD. We're place and delivery specialists, and we've been working alongside the Combined Authority, the City Council, and Homes England for a little while now to understand the potential of the city and kind of support that development of a new vision and where it's going. And it's in a sort of really genuinely exciting place. So I just wanted to introduce our panel today. Julia Krause on the end. Julia is a regional assistant at Homes England for the Eastern region. So Julia is bringing that kind of voice of Homes England, but also talking about the strategic place partnership which they have with the CPCA, which has been running since 2025. And then Paul, Mayor of Cambridge and Peterborough, so bringing that political leadership, strategic weight of the Combined Authority to the discussion. And then Cllr Shabina A, leader of Peterborough City Council, so bringing the local democratic voice, ensuring that this what we're talking about delivers for the people of Peterborough. And then, last but not least, Lyn Garner, who is the current chair of Bristol Temple Quarter LLP, and you've done this before, so really interested to get your kind of views and experience of what's been going on. So just to get us going, I thought I would just give you some brief stats on kind of what's going on in Peterborough, just to sort of set the scene. So Peterborough is the fifth fastest growing city in the UK, and it sits at that crossroads between Oxford and Cambridge. The innovation corridor, it's got a really young population, strong connectivity, and there's a lot of economic momentum behind the city at the moment. Underpinning all of this, and Paul's going to talk a little bit more about this, is the ambitious local growth plan, which has been set out last year and was launched towards the back end of last year, with this ambition to triple the size of the regional economy by 2050. But there's already an awful lot happening in Peterborough at the moment. The arrival of Anglia Ruskin University, they've just delivered their first 2 phases of activity and have an ambitious plan to grow their student numbers. We've secured £50 million of levelling up money to go into transforming the gateway to the city at the station, which is quite, really significant. And we want to use that as a springboard for everything that we're talking about today. So in addition to that, and building on that foundation, is this strategic partnership between the Combined Authority and Homes England. And we have an intention, and we want to dig into this today, to establish a growth board. And the potential within the city is huge. There's 206 hectares of regeneration opportunity, 68 hectares of development-ready land. We're going to talk about delivering a new city centre master plan this year and a vision. So lots going on, and then ultimately the ambition to establish a Mayoral Development Corporation to really lead all of that. Okay, so let's sort of dig in. I just want to talk about the opportunity, and Shabina, I just wanted to come to you first. So how transformational is this opportunity for Peterborough and the arrival of ARU and securing the station quarter funding? Like, how is that making a massive difference to the city?
Oh, sorry. Hello, thanks a lot, Martin. It's really important that we understand that actually we have always had, there's never been a lack of ambition in Peterborough. That's the strength that we've always had. But some of the statistics that you put forward about it being the 5th fastest growing city, out of interest, just putting the ARU at the centre of all of that, we're actually the fastest growing youth population in the country as well, which gives you an idea of the opportunity that we have. What we've lacked beyond that ambition is a discernible delivery model to make sure that we put that ambition into action. And that's where the establishment of the Mayoral Development Corporation, underpinned by the Growth Board, is going to be essential in making sure that we embark upon that delivery effectively. We've got a number of brownfield sites dotted around the region. I think that it's important that we work together in partnership and establish how we bring forward efficiencies in terms of planning, which is easily achievable. But at the centre of all of that is the fact that it's not just about building homes, it's about real opportunities, jobs, skills, growth within that sector, and at the same time a good mix of sort of green space and looking at the diversity. It's one of the most diverse cities in the country. We've got a real eclectic mix of different cultures. So tying that all in with the city visioning approach, I think, is something that will be transformational and not just a 400-page consultant's report.
Great, excellent. And well, just coming to you then, Paul, to talk, could you tell us a bit more about the local growth plan and how that kind of like wraps that ambition that Shabina's just talked about?
Yeah, well, thanks very much. When I produced that local growth plan, lots of kind of people said, "Oh my God, you want to triple the size of the economy about 2050? You know, you want all these interventions?" And I said, "Well, look, you know, that growth plan, that's unconstrained growth. That is if all those barriers to growth around, you know, energy, about water, about congestion, if those barriers were removed, this is what we might achieve. If we got the infrastructure that we needed, this is what we could achieve. But we're going to get nowhere near that if we don't invest in our biggest city, which is Peterborough, or we don't get a plan for our biggest city, which is Peterborough. We know the Cambridge story. We know that. It's kind of well documented. But Peterborough is a city of 250,000 people, nearly. It's connected to the A1. It's on the east-west, on the north-south east main line. It's got a strong, proud tradition and a history. A development corporation built Peterborough from 68 to 88. It's well understood. Peterborough can really, really fly. And it's about making sure that we get all the building blocks in place to try and unleash, you know, that vision, that plan, and that development. And do you know something? Those building blocks are already in place. You know, we were just talking a little bit about ARU Peterborough. Okay, our university. I remember, problem with me is it's a plus and it's a negative. I think I've said this before. The plus is I am from Peterborough, but the negative is that I'm from Peterborough. And so you see all the stories and you know everything about the city. You sometimes got to take a step back, avoid, you know, some of the kind of things that you've always got in the reads in, and look back. People said we would never build that university, and we have. And now over half the people who go to that university, well over half, come from PE postcodes. So that's educating our own population. People said that might not happen. The station quarter is just about the biggest levelling up fund and opportunity in the entire country. And it's happening in Peterborough. So look, there is a lot of investment. A lot of people want to back Peterborough. It's about getting that plan to ensure that it continues to grow in the right way, and we take advantage of those opportunities because we perhaps missed them in the past. We don't want to miss it this time.
Great, thank you. And question for Julia. So how important is everything you've just heard, having these kind of firm plans in place, and the SPP? I mean, having a partnership with Homes England like that would be the envy of a lot of places. So how important is the SPP and that kind of investment that's going in for Peterborough for Homes England?
I mean, hugely important. And Paul, we met for the first time a year ago here, and you were pretty unequivocal about how important Peterborough was in your sort of plan and in what you wanted to do with the SPP. And so it's been a real focus for the entirety of that time in terms of, you know, what we do next, how we support the vision, how do we work up to that. And so one of the things that strategic place partnerships enable us to do is really drive that sort of local focus, understand what places want, how we tailor the work of the agency to support it, and how we deliver a sort of shared pipeline of projects, and sometimes that's funding, sometimes it's other things. And actually, I think it's fair to say on this one, actually a lot of it's been time. It's been our time and some money at the moment, but actually time and convening to make sure that we sort of help move things forwards. And that started with a strategic review. It looked at, you know, there's an awful lot of good work that's already been done in Peterborough, and actually understanding the place, understanding what needed to happen, and understanding what kind of framework it needs to move forward. And that's really what we're sort of looking ahead to be able to do. And sort of working really closely in that SPP partnership enables us to work, you know, really closely with local partners to deliver that.
Yeah, and that partnership's really maturing, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And Lyn, getting your sort of external perspective, hearing all of this, just how important are all of these things? So thinking about kind of the impact it can have kind of locally, thinking about having that grand ambition, but also those partnerships in place, like how important are all those ingredients in your experience?
Yeah, I mean they're all important, aren't they? And I think from my experience, chairing this Bristol LLP at the moment, but prior to that, I was the chief executive of the Legacy Corporation for the Olympic Park. Wow. So look, urban regeneration is really complex, actually, and it's kind of multi-layered, has all sorts of problems, starting with just coming in at the ground level and thinking about how you bring all these elements together here. All of those elements are important for various reasons, but collaboration sits across all of them. So we've talked about the university and the fact that that's here, and obviously that's going to be central to growth, and you'll want to really make the most of that. So yes, it's a feature for local people in terms of educating your own, but actually you want to really lever it for growth. Actually, in the context of what's going on in the Oxcam corridor and so on. I was thinking about that because I was on the East West Rail panel this morning, bumped into a colleague on the way in and asked a few questions about Peterborough. It's great, isn't it, that you're thinking about this in advance, because off they go, East West Rail, Oxford to Cambridge, but all these places on the periphery of that huge ambition are really important as well, that we bring all of that in and we maximise the benefits for the local populations, but also enhance the growth for those areas, so it all kind of comes together in a sensible way. So that makes a lot of sense. And the expertise coming from Homes England, we found that invaluable in Bristol. Actually, not only a bit of cash and a bit of oiling the wheels and so on, but they have worked in major regeneration schemes for a long time. They do have quite a lot of expertise to draw on and bring to the table, and it's very worthwhile. And the more that, as we kind of push change forward in this country, we are short of really experienced people in this field in the public sector, and the more we can draw on that expertise that's sitting in organisations like Homes England, and those of us who've been a bit around the block on this, the better, really. We need to support each other to make sure we can drive it forward in efficient ways. Otherwise, we'll replicate all the mistakes that, we made on the Olympic Park kind of thing, just so that we can drive it forward in that way.
Great, thank you. And I think what we're trying to do is put those sort of foundations for growth in place. So we talked about the sort of strong, the SPP, but also I think what's really struck me is this kind of moment for this sort of strong political alignment. There's obviously a sort of shared ambition for the city centre and where it's going, and that role it can play in the kind of regional centre and the regional economy. So a question for Paul, actually, can you tell us a little bit about the growth board, kind of what that's been sort of set up to achieve, and ultimately kind of how that might sort of take us forward into an MDC?
What's important about the growth board is exactly what Lyn has been saying. I think it's about bringing everyone together, okay, and using all the advantages and all the actors and putting them in one place rather than everyone doing their own thing. It's about bringing everyone together to collaborate for the wider opportunity, which is an MDC, which is the growth, the jobs, the skills, and everything that we want to see in this great city. I know if you're looking to try and invest somewhere, the challenge sometimes is you look at something and it's risk, isn't it? You look at somewhere and you think to yourself, oh, could this happen? And what happens if this politics changes over here? And what happens if there's an event over here? What we want to create is that level of certainty, okay? So it doesn't really necessarily matter who's mayor. I mean, I sincerely hope it's me. But it doesn't really matter who's mayor. You've got the delivery vehicle in terms of an MDC. It doesn't matter who controls Peterborough City Council, because all of us share that same agenda. We can have a fight in a pub car park over politics over here, but when it comes to that vision, about growth, we're all on the same page, and you don't have that risk. And so that's what it's trying to do. It's trying to do two things. It's trying to make sure that there is all the people who have an influence, whether it's university, whether it's Homes England, Peterborough City Council, the Combined Authority, everybody aligned in one place on that vision for growth, leading to the delivery mechanism, which is an MDC. And the second is to ensure that all of you and those who are looking to invest in Peterborough a new opportunity have that degree of certainty that you know that this is actually going to happen, because it is going to happen. It's the one thing that I went into politics to try and do, because, as I say, the plus and the negatives are that I'm from Peterborough, and I want, people, my children, and my friends' children to have the same opportunities and feel about the city the same way that I felt about it when I was 18 years old.
Great, thank you. And just coming to you, Julia, so thinking about that growth board and kind of where that's going, how important is it for Homes England to have from an investable kind of place point of view to have that governance and kind of be part of it?
Yeah, I mean, really important. I mean, you know, clearly we have a huge focus on housing delivery and having sort of structured approach, a structured way of doing things, a prioritised way of doing things is hugely important to make sure that we are actually, kind of as Lyn alluded to, you know, we're actually moving things forwards to delivery and not talking about it. And I think that's hugely important, and having that level of coordination and that kind of drive in the same direction is going to be really significant. I think is really exciting and really positive. And I think having that sort of robust governance, and I think I would hope that, you know, pretty quickly a really clear delivery strategy, a really clear sort of priority of, you know, what next, what do we do, where do we start with this, is going to be really important for the next period as well.
And I know that we're kind of in that moment of sort of planning for that, aren't we? Yeah. Just coming to you, Shabina, I just wanted to, you talked a bit about the impact it will have on the city and kind of like this huge sort of potential and exciting things going on. So how does what we're talking about, having the growth board, have the potential to improve the lives of people within Peterborough, thinking about in terms of jobs, skills and overall quality of life?
I think it's going to be transformational. I think in terms of underpinning, we've already done some work around our city centre visioning consultation report, which has drawn in over 791 responses so far about people and what they really want to see within the city in terms of jobs, how that should look in terms of development as well, which has given us a real confidence boost that there is a population that wants to see how their city looks and feels. We're very fortunate in terms of our strategic place, both on that A1 corridor and being a main train station with a station quarter development coming in and opening up the gateway to the city, which makes connectivity, transport links so much more accessible. So for people that are living and working within Peterborough and having to jump on a train that takes only 45 minutes to get into London, I think that we can indeed become a mini London where opportunities can stem from our city and actually be an offshoot of what's happening in London. Like I said, we've got the ambition for it. Work is already underway in terms of the scoping mechanism, and underpinned by the Mayoral Development Corporation, I think that it's actually going to be transformational to the people that live and breathe with the ARU, educating young people, making sure that we're retaining those people within jobs and employment within our city. So I think that this will have a huge impact. We saw it previously with the Peterborough Development Corporation in the 60s to the 80s, a huge amount of growth. And I think with the political appetite that we've got an aligned vision alongside Paul, I think it is very much achievable.
Interesting point about Peterborough's already had a development corporation and was one, so kind of bringing that kind of back in. Again, coming back to you, Lyn, so just sort of hearing all of this and your role at the London Legacy Development Corporation, what does the MDC kind of unlock that more conventional development can't? And really interested to get some of your experiences of kind of being at the helm of that and how that kind of worked working with the sort of the local councils that you were kind of working with.
This might be a bit controversial politically, really. It's quite interesting that mini London, isn't it? 45 minutes from London, that's fantastic. So I live just outside Reading. Takes me much longer than that to get into London on the GWR rail line. So that's really great connectivity, actually, isn't it? I don't know about being a mini London, though. Is that what you really want to aspire to? Let's take all the benefits and none of the downsides, right? So, yeah, I mean, I'm conscious that the MDC that I was working within was a GLA-controlled vehicle, which is going to be slightly different to the regional mayoral development corporations, I think. And lots of areas. I was on the task force and I advise on new towns at the moment into the government. And I think lots of areas are thinking about what vehicle structures they want and what the benefits of those are. So we're in a little bit of a time of change across the country in that regard, whilst people try to get their heads around the best structures. Certainly in the one that I was in, and I would hope it would be the same here, the certainty is the key question, isn't it? You know, both for the development community, investment community, if we can provide certainty. And what does that come from? Well, it comes from certainty of funding. It comes from aligned politics from the local to the combined authority, so that you're joined up in terms of a vision. You can provide that really strong environment, and that can be that it can be long lasting and has some cross-party support. Because let's be honest and blunt about this, when we're talking about 20-year programs, we don't want, and investors don't want, interference after 4 years or 5 years of X party being in control and a new leader coming in and so on. So bluntly, an MDC can lift you away from the politics a little bit and insulate that, and that's really important, I think, for that certainty aspect. It gives you a bit of that independent governance, therefore. So most MDCs will have an independent chair, and I'm an independent chair in Bristol. That means that I can talk to the City Council and the Combined Authority with a sort of independent view of what's going on, and try to, input my view. They don't employ me. They pay me, obviously. They're sort of the paymasters, but I'm not their employee, and that gives me a bit of independence. And actually, strangely enough, I've got more independence at the LLP because of that structure than I had in London, because you're very clearly working for the mayor there in Sadiq Khan. So it's quite interesting to think about how you want to deal with that, actually, because having an independent chair probably gives that bit more confidence out there to the market as well. So have a think about that. Don't know what you're going to do about planning and the local planning authority, whether you're going to have planning policy in here and development management powers. We obviously had that in the park. Fundamental, really. Now, there were 4 boroughs surrounding the park: Tower Hamlets, Waltham Forest, Newham, and Hackney. I don't think they liked it very much that the big red line of the MDC took their planning powers from the borough, because nobody really wants that from a democratic point of view. So that's really close working about how you can align policy in the first instance through the local plan. Start delivering something in your local plan that's collaborated on and that the local authorities can get behind. And then finally, I just want to talk about focus. At the LRDC, is one of my former colleagues in the room there is expert in transport planning. We had about 150 people who were completely focused on the job of work. They weren't doing day jobs in other areas of the local authority. They weren't, distracted, if you like, by the very important business of health and social care. They were focused on changing this particular area for these particular reasons. They were well paid, they were passionate about the area, and they stayed for years. So the executive and the leadership there feels really important as well, so that your developer and investor community can engage with those people and have real confidence in them for the longer term.
That's great, and we're giving ourselves some time, aren't we, to build that program and really kind of investigate those things. Shabina first, like, how useful is that to kind of get that information and feel, kind of contrast that with where we're at and where we're going?
It's vital to have that kind of advice so that we can operate forward in a cohesive manner. Like I said, I think the political alignment is there. The reassurance I'd like to give anyone wanting to invest in Peterborough is that our values are aligned. We leave the politics at the door, and often, may come to loggerheads that we have prior beforehand, but we've actually achieved on many things as well, collaboratively and together, and that's the great thing. And Paul is passionate about Peterborough in terms of reaching out and establishing this Mayoral Development Corporation. I will absolutely give Paul the credit in wanting to really lay an emphasis on Peterborough, and
that's on the record.
He's blushing now. But I think it's fundamentally important, and some of the things are that we're good storytellers. I think both Paul and myself, we love to celebrate where we live and work, where we're bringing our children up, and that ties in with the vast heritage that we have in the city. We have got a 900-year-old cathedral with a queen lying in state, Catherine of Aragon, the most beautiful western front of the cathedral in the world. We've got a Bronze Age archaeological site, the only Bronze Age archaeological site in Europe. So the potential is huge. And I think that we are good storytellers at being able to sell the case around Peterborough, and that will be pivotal in making sure that we look at delivery of this vehicle moving forward.
No, that's absolutely right, Shabina. God, I'm blushing. All this kind of compliments from you. I never thought I'd hear the day, but anyway. Just 3 things there, reflecting on what Lyn and Shabina have said. as it happens, Lyn and I have worked together in the past. I was reminded of this before when I was a councillor in Hammersmith and Fulham. I've been around for ages, so there you go. So we worked together. I was reminded that when I was a 24-year-old fresh-faced councillor with Stephen Greenhouse saying, well, how do you feel about being in the cabinet? I said, well, my drinks cabinet's empty at the moment. I didn't know what he was talking about. But anyway, back in the day. So there are three things you said there. The first is around funding. Okay, so I think what an MDC might achieve is the ability to try and pull some of the resources, A, that the combined authority can bring, B, actors like Homes England can bring, because this is about also delivering homes for the future. It's all right building, kind of homes and fields around the outskirts of Peterborough, which we've done in the past. This is, and I understand the challenges around urban regeneration, but it's also about bringing homes back into our city centre, and I'm confident with Homes England we can do that. The resources of the combined authority, and there's always other sorts of capital funding, whether it's from the private sector, the National Wealth Bank, or whether it's through government viability funding. But it allows us to channel those three sort of key problems associated with urban regeneration, which are planning. You've got that kind of certainty with planning. It doesn't depend whether the politics of the day are kind of taken out of it, and there's that kind of alignment about where you're going to go. So it's planning. Second, land assembly. You're going to have huge new powers around land assembly, because if we're being honest, some of the challenges around some of the urban settings we've got around North Westgate in the past have been around land assembly. We can resolve some of those issues. And the third is around viability as well. It allows us to resolve some of those kind of challenges as well. I mean, Adrian and I were only talking the other day about a site, in the city centre. I'm not going to say which one it is, but it gives us the opportunity. And the Peterborough City Council trying to hand that over to developers has always been a challenge. But what an MDC and the viability challenge is able to do, we can do some remedial work to the land, give ourselves planning permission, and then you can hand that site over to someone, and it's kind of oven ready, one for another, for developers, and it removes all that risk. The second thing you said is around the politics. Look, just talking about Cambridge for a second. Someone said to me once, he said, some of the problem with investing in Cambridge is that the politics are incredibly messy. You'll have a Green councillor in the city centre ran by a Labour city council, ran by a Liberal Democrat county council with a Tory mayor. Goodness me, it is messy, isn't it, right? And Peterborough's got actually the same sort of challenges, believe it or not. The politics in Peterborough are certainly complex. But what we need to do is just take a step back from all of that, and turn perhaps what looks on the face of it a challenge into an opportunity. And that's what we've done in Cambridge. We've got a national Labour government, we've got predominantly a Liberal Democrat local government, and you've got a Conservative regional government, all aligned on the key principles about where you want to go. We can do that again in Peterborough, and that's what that's all about. And I think, to be fair, you probably wouldn't be able to get a slither of cigarette paper between Shabina and I on those issues about urban regeneration. We need to make sure the investor community understand that, and an MDC also just takes that step back, from that as well. And the third is to talk about independence. One of the benefits of being mayor is that I'm quite confident about admitting what I don't know, and being honest about what I don't know. I can give you vision till the cows come home, right? I can talk to you about what I want my city to be and be able to tell a story about it, my children growing up in that city, the great nightlife, which Rob Bridge knows all about, in Peterborough in the past. So I can tell that story about Peterborough, where it was, where it is, and where it will be. I can give you that till the cows come home, but I'm not an urban regeneration planner, I'm not an expert in this field. There are challenges that we'll need to overcome. So look, I want an independent chair of an MDC. I want that sort of independence. It was quite funny when I saw who Andy Burnham was appointing in Manchester. He's appointing Seb Coe and for one, and he's appointing Steve Coogan for the other. And started me thinking about who are the celebrities we've got in Peterborough. I mean, maybe we could appoint Barry Fry, the chairman. Might as well appoint Frank Butcher. But it was quite. So we probably have to think a little bit more carefully about that. But what we want is two things. We want a board of people who know what they're talking about, on the MDC, people who've done this before. This is an opportunity that can't be missed because we're messing around with this, that, and this, that, and the other. We need the finest minds who've done this before, because we are just 45 minutes from London. I remember someone telling me, and at King's Cross development, probably takes 45 minutes to get from St Margaret's and Richmond to King's Cross, and so longer to get from there than it does to get from Peterborough. So there is this opportunity, and we need the finest minds in the country to do it.
Thank you. I think at some point we're going to have to get this story, Rob, about your nightlife, because I've heard it. Yeah. Great, thank you. So I just wanted to then think about the foundations for delivery. I think what you've just said, it should be kind of, you know, music to the ears of the developers and investors in the room about kind of putting this work in to sort of get this story straight. So there's lots of strong political alignment, clear kind of ambition for the city. One of the missing parts of the jigsaw, Shabina, seems to be the city centre sort of delivery, development framework, master plan, kind of really sort of setting out what those opportunities are and how we can use ARU and all the other good things that are happening there as a springboard. How important to you is that?
Very important. We've already set out work regarding that. We've got investment from government around the city centre regeneration, as well as the three. It's been identified as an opportunity zone already on our local growth plan. So it's important to understand that work is already underway and not that we are planning to start it. The consultation is in place. We've already established the pins in terms of establishing a growth board, and the next steps really are just looking to investors to come and talk to us about how we can deliver on some of those plans, and some of those in strong partnerships with Homes England and the CPCA on how we can identify on what we really need where in those three development zones, and get cracking. The station quarter already, work has started on that. So it's a work in progress, but it's now just sort of, you know, in the middle of that delivery, how to maximise on those opportunities.
Yeah, great, thank you. And Lyn, at Bristol, I mean, lots of those things are already kind of coming together, aren't they? And the partnership with the Combined Authority, with WECA, with Homes England, that's kind of maturing. How important has it been for Bristol Temple Quarter about putting those foundations in place and kind of taking your time to get to that point of going to the market? And do you think that you got a better response from the market from doing it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, first of all, when I arrived about a year ago, there was a very strong local authority, public sector partnership. So very similar to this panel, actually. The partners in the LRP are Homes England, the Combined Authority and the local authority. They've put cash and land in. So shown their commitment there, some public sector land in and so on. And one of the first things we did was go out and appoint the non-executive directors to the LRP. There'd already been a lot of work done around visioning, and I can't emphasize enough how important that is, getting the vision right and getting local buy-in. Because if you haven't got local buy-in from business and community, you can be scuppered later on, actually. And just making sure that, you know, your communities are feeling the benefits of change is quite important, isn't it, as well? So what the early lessons really have been having a plan for the infrastructure. So that one of the first things we're doing is building a multimodal transport hub to release some land around Temple Mead Station to get the programme of land coming forward. Karen, the chief executive, has now procured a development partner in Muse. It's great to hear you talk about a master developer role, whereby you packaging up these development parcels and putting them into the market for different purposes, because my understanding is you've got different packages across different parts of the city, and you're almost putting a development zone in place and picking up those opportunity areas. So yeah, I think it provides great confidence by getting the plans, you know, written and consulted on, but not necessarily putting it into planning permission until you've got your partner sitting next to you.
That's good advice, thank you. And Julia, just sort of coming into the sort of funding landscape, and there's been quite a lot of talk here at UK Reef this year about Homes England, the strategic plan, the housing bank, and the sort of the stimulus that Homes England can kind of bring in terms of that funding. And so everything that kind of Paul talked about land assembly, working capital, other things. Could you sort of say a little bit about where that sits and how the SPP can kind of really sort of bring that into Peterborough?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a really exciting time for the agency. So from the 1st of April, our new chief exec came in at the back end of last year and was really clear that we had four really key priorities for the 1st of April. The first of those was a new regional model. I've always been in a regional role, but the agency as a whole is focused much more regionally. So we have a London East team now focused on this area. We have a new bank, National Housing Bank. with 16 billion to deploy around sort of finance, loans, loans, equity guarantees. We have our new grant funding programme, so National Housing Delivery Fund, and also our social and affordable housing programme, which is currently ramping up for delivery as well. So a huge amount from a funding point of view to deploy, and I think that's always hugely important. But I think, as I said previously, I think it's a combination of that alongside actually seed funding, and actually seed funding to date that we've provided sort of, you know, in coordination with the Combined Authority in Peterborough to support the work we've just described, and to be able to continue to do that at our time. And I guess one of the privileges of our role, my role, is that we're across lots of locations, so we can see what is working, what isn't working, and really ensure that there's that kind of shared, shared knowledge, and sort of the good stuff and the bad stuff. You know what we need to look out for, a little bit like Lyn's described. And so I see our role being all of those things, and looking at, tailoring that to what we need over the next period in Peterborough.
Thanks. And is the intention for the Growth Board to oversee the development of that master plan? So essentially it's got everybody's kind of input into that developing, and how important for Homes England is it? I know that you're putting kind of working capital into getting that going as well.
Yeah, we will do, and I mean, absolutely, it's the coordination, and ultimately it's the delivery. It's actually putting the structure around what that starts to look like, and how we move that into delivery as quickly as possible, because I think that's what we all want to see.
Thank you. And Paul, we've talked a lot in the past about getting tower cranes up. That's kind of one of the sort of visual sort of cues of success, and it kind of moving forward. I mean, what would the message be to sort of developers, investors in the room about where this program's going, and kind of what point we might want to engage with the market?
So, I mean, I certainly don't want to waste anybody's time, but I never think it's ever too soon to actually sit down and articulate this vision and give the markets and give investors that sort of tell the story of Peterborough, but also talk about that certainty, some of the things that we've been talking about there. That now we are serious about this, and we're putting the tools in place to ensure that it gives you the certainty of delivery in the future. So it's not just Shabina and I waving our arms in the air talking about vision. This is actually now going to happen. Okay, and that's the kind of message that I want to get across, because our time is now, and for all the advantages that Peterborough's got, it's now time to kind of realise these. It's a great city, a very special place, and we can do something extraordinary there. And come and talk to us, because some of the opportunities that exist in that city centre. I mean, what I really quite enjoy doing, actually, and I've done it a bunch of times with various different responses from others, is I've taken people to Peterborough and walked them around. I've done that with some developers already. I've done that with Peter Freeman, who's obviously setting up the centrally led development corporation in Cambridge. We talked about doing it with Homes England. We talked about our next meeting with Homes England. Actually come to the city, walk through the embankment, walk through what we've got there, come and see what's happened already. Okay, so we're not starting. This is not a situation where there's you come to a place and no regeneration has happened in the past. It has happened in the past. It's been a bit piecemeal, but it's happened already. We've got what's happened at San Martin House and there already along the river. We've got the biggest regeneration levelling up project in the country about to start with the station quarter. And we've got ARU Peterborough. So that kind of journey's already began. It's about how we take this to the next step and we unleash the potential of this city, as I say, of 250,000 people.
Thank you. And the same question to you, Shabina. How important is this to you and to the city? I mean, it seems like the city's having a real moment, and we need to kind of build on that.
Absolutely. And the difference between now and previous was like I said before, we had this ambition, but work's already started. We've now got the ARU, which is the university that is going to give us the jobs and skills that we need. Where the station quarter work has just started already. We have underpinned we've done the city centre visioning work already to gain buy-in from local businesses and from the population. So from the sort of putting square pegs into square holes, we've sort of put that structure around, and all we need now is for that wheel to turn. So it's about talking to developers, looking at the potential of what this city has to offer, like you said, it's the 5th fastest growing city. It's the fastest growing young population in the country. I mean, those are really powerful selling points when we have a look at establishing jobs and employment within the city, and giving opportunity to young people, for people in terms of the proximity to the major city, the capital city, to give that close proximity. I think the cost of housing is considerably better when you compare it to other big cities, and especially London. And that's one of the reasons why I moved there. Some of you don't know, by profession, I'm a medic and I'm a doctor. I work 1 day a week as a GP. But actually, it's given me the opportunity to be able to, up close, have a look at what really matters to people within the city. And they come every single day telling me stories about their lives, about the opportunities that they've seen. And I feed that back into the council. So it's an excellent litmus test of seeing where people want to see opportunity, how they want to see their city centre regenerate, and how we are actually drawing not just students from our own city, but around the country and even internationally as well, that want to make sure that Peterborough is a place that they live, work, and are able to bring up their families. So very important indeed.
Thank you, and it's great that you're having that conversation with them as well. So I just wanted to open the floor, basically, and we've got sort of 10 minutes for questions. There's a lot there to unpack, and hands straight up. So, if somebody could pass, if you wouldn't mind saying who you are and where you're from, that would be.
Yeah, no, my name's Chris Howarth. I chair a number of LATCOs, so I get very much involved with the public-private partnerships. One of those is Gateway 14 in Stowmarket, which I chair for Mid Suffolk District Council, where we're going to make our shareholder about £60 million. So I'm a great fan of public-private partnerships and what it can do. And I think for Peterborough, obviously there's the opportunity for the Development Corporation to go out and spend a lot of money, remove uncertainty, and really deliver the vision. And that will, that'll be great. It'll make a lot of money for other people. Or, of course, the Development Corporation can go and invest the money to deliver that vision. The two, and it's very important to have that, the distinction between the two, spending and investing. By investing, that gives the Development Corporation the ability to capture some of the value that it is creating. So it was a question, I suppose, possibly for Paul, how is the Development Corporation going to take this forward? Are you going to spend? Are you going to invest? And obviously it's a mix. Sometimes it may be a mix of the two, but really that's basically my question.
Well, I mean, I quite liked what you said there about kind of investing and then keep reaping some of the rewards of the money that you spend. And look, that's always the right thing to do. Look, I guess it's time to put the cards on the table. We only know what we know, okay? And as I said to you earlier, Shabina and I can give you vision till the cows come home, okay? But we've got to work with a series of partners. That's why we're setting up this growth board as the first sort of step, to get us to the situation and resolve perhaps kind of 3 really key challenges about when you establish something like a development corporation. First is the right governance and the right structure. So everybody knows what they're doing. I think secondly is securing a source of revenue. Okay, so you've got a revenue coming in over a longer period of time. We will put something in to begin with, but you need a long-term revenue stream coming in, and what is the source of that revenue? And I think the third is, yes, you need to turn around and create a vision of what you can do, but you need capital. Okay, you actually need people who are going to come in and support you. That's why we signed the Strategic Place partnership with Homes England. This is a homes-led regeneration scheme. Okay, lots of people, when you go out to the public, talked about getting local people's buy-in. I think there's 2 real opportunities with Peterborough. First, it's got that legacy of a development corporation, and kind of people understand it and what it's done in the past. But the second sort of challenge is, people want to see sort of infrastructure in their city centre. They want people to go back to the days of big retail in Queensgate and nightlife and all the rest of it. There's an element of understanding that's got to come with homes, okay? And people need kind of homes. So you need that working capital, okay? And you have to kind of think to yourself, how do you get it? And you can't just rely on the government coming along with, by the way, this year we're going to give you £26 million worth of brownfield funding, or we're going to give you X number of viability funding, because that might happen, it might not. So you've got to think about how you're going to source other forms of capital, whether it is the National Wealth Bank or the private sector, and doing some sort of deal, doing some sort of partnership arrangement with them. So those are the 3 challenges. We only know what we're going to know, but I'm confident we're going to get there.
Thank you. I thought it's a great question. I think anybody could answer this, and I see Lyn's itching to answer it. So, or contribute.
It is a great question. Goes to the heart of the thing, doesn't it? And I agree with what Paul said there. But Chris, it depends on the site, doesn't it? We've got a range of sites here and a range of opportunity areas, and some will be less developed than others. Some will need infrastructure requirements, which will cost huge amounts of money. And won't be able to be done without some kind of public sector funding, I would have thought. I mean, I'm guessing, I don't know the area in great detail. If I think about Stratford, it was a huge brownfield site where you needed to create the market. There wasn't any market. There was no value in that land in the beginning, and so a lot of washing machines. Investment really had, the fridge heap or whatever it was, fridge mountain. A lot of investment had to go in to begin with. But the kind of elements that we would want to consider would be whether we invest in land in the first instance, whether we should be going in and strategically thinking about which land parcels should we acquire, where we need to invest, for long-term infrastructure so that we can get land value capture in the longer term and take a return out of that back for the public sector. Great to hear Paul talk about the bank, because we'll need the borrowing, but we have to pay that back. And so therefore we need an investment plan for each of those areas. So I think it depends on the site, doesn't it? It depends on the area. But yeah, early thoughts about how we bring the value back to the city and to the city region is actually quite important. And there are, some tax increment financing mechanisms you can use around development and so on. So all those things would need to be on the table, I think, at the early stages.
Thank you. Yeah, it's such a good question. I promise you it's not a plant either, the question, but yeah.
No, I mean, so what we did at Gateway 14, and that was an opportunity where the council identified an area of land and we went out and bought it in the open market. Then I persuaded the shareholder to spend 18 million on putting in the infrastructure. So, they'd invested about 38 million. So it was a big investment for a small local authority. But then it was a matter of we then became part of Freeport East. We were then lucky enough to do a big deal with the range and built them a building 1.17 million square feet, and built a number of other buildings. The Skills and Innovation Centre that's come in there, and it's already delivered a profit. We've repaid the 38 million. They've already made a profit of 26 million. There's another 30 or 40 to come. So it's what you can do. And so often you hear with LATCOs, you hear about the stories of where they've gone wrong. Woking, where they built a great town centre, but unfortunately there's a huge gap between its value and how much they had to borrow to do it. But there are some really good opportunities around. And sometimes I am concerned that development corporations think, well, we need to spend this to give certainty and get it to come forward. Because there are big opportunities, but Lyn, you're absolutely right. It's a bit of both that should work.
Thank you. Any more questions from the floor?
Morning, I'm Tony Cahill from SLC. Really exciting vision. Question for me really is for Lyn. And when you were working on Bristol, was there a particular moment where you felt a project or an intervention gave confidence that you felt you had momentum going forward? Was there a particular moment, I guess, is my question.
Yeah, a couple of things on that, a few milestones. I took the job for two main reasons. It's 135 hectares of supposedly developable land. The stuff outside Temple Mead Station, for anyone who knows that area, is what I would call the easy bit. Looks pretty awful. It's a bunch of sites. Yeah, bring a partner in, bring it forward. The stuff to the east of the station is massively challenging. 90 hectares of existing brownfield and employment space, needs land assembly, needs relocation for about 150 different interests. That's huge. And will take a lot of infrastructure investment. But there were two things that convinced me to take the job. One was a fantastic grade 1 listed station, Brunel Station, right in the heart of the city centre, and the immediate environment being wasted. Huge placemaking opportunity for that station. So I'm most interested in working with Network Rail. And fortunately, Peter Hender used to be my chair, so I have a little way into kind of making sure that we prioritise that station. That's what I'm doing. Secondly, the University of Bristol had already committed and were in the ground building, and it's opening this September, a £500 million campus round the corner, anchoring that brownfield site. So, that, and they were, similar here, Digitech, AI specialisms coming off the Clifton Hill, investing in more of these deprived areas. And it was those two reasons why I took the job. Since then, the team have moved on and secured a private sector partner for the first bit, the phase one. Fantastic. It's Muse. They've got urban regeneration experience. And they've got a great partnership with Homes England already. They'll be able to bring that forward really well, I think. A few milestones along the way, and Karen, the chief executive's already got that first piece of enabling infrastructure in place. And I think it's this that gives us all confidence, isn't it? These little milestones of ticking these things off give us confidence as people working on the scheme, but also the wider community, that confidence. The business stakeholders want to see that confidence, and then your investors as well.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Morning, Jason Richards from RSK. It's not actually a question. I've got a message from Dame Tanigray Thompson for Lyn. And Dame Tanigray said that Lyn was the best chief exec that LLDC ever had, and that she's very excited to see what Lyn brings to a new role. I promised her I would raise that this morning, so sorry, it's not a question.
No, great. Thank you. And it just talks to the quality of the panel. Paul,
Well planted, Lyn. Well planted.
the lengths that we will go to. I think there was another question behind you. Thank you for that. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? So, I mean, just as we start to wrap up, and I think that point about momentum, it feels to me momentum takes a lot of hard work. It's a kind of an easy thing to say, and it feels like Peterborough has momentum. Julia, do you want to say about that, anything about that momentum and the journey that you're on and where we're going?
Obviously the next steps, setting up the growth board, really getting that momentum and that coordination going, and from our point of view, really starting to crystallise where the priorities are, what our delivery strategy is for the project, and see where we can get to.
Thanks, Paul.
Well, it sometimes feels like we've been here before, doesn't it? A little bit in terms of Peterborough, okay? And I'll just be honest about that, in the sense that I think everyone has known that there is a great opportunity in the city, in terms of its location, East Coast main line, A1, all the advantages it's got as compared to other places. I guess the difference between then and now is, first, we've seen that thing is going to happen in terms of AIU, the campus there. Lots of people locally saying that would never happen, and it has. And the station quarter, we talked a little bit about that. I guess what I think gives us momentum is that we have the power, to do it in terms of a combined authority. The government has given us those powers, and it's clear that in terms of a direction of travel. I don't think I've ever been so excited about an announcement from the Chancellor when she talked about TWOs and and giving those to mayors. I think that got very excited about that yesterday. The government wants us to do this, and I've always turned around and said that lobbying 101 is about showing how the government can achieve their ambitions by doing what you want them to do. And I want Peterborough to be this great city that it can be and realise its potential. Second level, so A, we've done it before, B, the government are behind it, and C, there's now a degree of political alignment around all of this, that when it comes to growth, it's no longer going to be a political battle. It gives all of you the certainty that you need to make wise and sensible decisions. That's what I think the momentum is.
Thanks. Shabina?
I think what gives this momentum is that some of the work has already started, that gives investors the confidence to come in and understand that actually it's not just going to be, like I said before, a 400-page consultant report. I cannot emphasise enough the fact that there is more than just political alignment. There is the fact that we've put politics at the door. We are, from a local authority point of view, in a coalition of different parties, and it's been more collaborative than it has ever been for years and years. And I think that that's fundamental in ensuring that people around the table in the local authority are all singing from the same hymn sheet alongside Paul as well. And we have a Labour MP who feeds that into local government, who is a great advocate of the work that Paul and I are doing collectively. So that will remain, and that stability is essential for investors to understand that they can come in with the confidence knowing that they can all speak to us at those same tables. I think the mayoral roundtable that we had initially was an initial signal to that culture that we have, which is collaborative, and I'm sure it will continue.
Great, thank you.
From my end, definitely it will.
Thanks. So just to wrap up, I mean, like a year goes quickly in kind of reef terms, doesn't it? And I think that the plan today was to sort of tell you about where the city's going, but very much with a view to coming back in 2027 and actually kind of launching. And so this is the start of the conversation. Shabina, like what do you want to be saying to the market next year? Like what are you excited to be coming back with?
Next year, I want to see that the station quarter has progressed and that we can cranes in the air, like Paul says, and to change the landscape. We're also looking at both the north and south of the city as well. We have a bridge that is being constructed through our Towns Fund project, which will again increase the potential for developers to come in and have a look at that part of the city. So this is not just a work in progress, but it also will feed into the wider narrative of what we want to do with the city as a whole. And I think that coming here next year will show how much progress we've made if we keep on the same trajectory, of which we've already done quite a bit of substantial work already.
Thank you. And final word to you, Paul. Why is this going to be the unmissable UK Reef 2027 event?
So I think in 12 months' time, I think what we'll have is some of those questions, answers to some of those questions I put earlier, around governance, okay, of an MDC, around understanding our capital needs and where we're going to get some of that capital from in order to do this, to come to those tricky sites, even if it is buying land and realising some of that return yourself. And I think thirdly, is those revenue streams that an MDC needs. You know, I mean, there's no point setting all this up if it doesn't have a long-term, revenue stream. You know, that's the challenge. And then fourthly, partnerships. Okay, actual real partnerships, not only with Homes England, not only with Peterborough City Council, but real partnerships with a wider range of stakeholders like the university and everything else, but private sector partners as well, people who are going to give us that capital. That's where we're going to be in 12 months' time. I think that's good enough to be getting on with. So for 12 months, we can tell you that story. I think it's going to be the can't miss event of UK Reef.
Brilliant.
A bit like the UK DJ Mayor's Battle last night, which I saw you all.
How did that go? Can you say a little bit about that? So
I brought it home.
He was saying.
That's a good place to end it. Save the date. We'll be here next year. Thank you to everybody on the panel. Lots of exciting things going on. And thanks for turning out so early on a Thursday morning. Appreciate it.